welcome to Uncovering Authenticity. Ko Monique Bradley tōku ingoa he kai kōrero aho. I'm Monique Bradley. I am a storyteller, and guess what? So are you. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's helping people uncover their truth, uncover themselves, have some permission to take off the mask and show up unapologetically and amazingly themselves. And I am so delighted to have today's guest in the studio. I met him a few weeks ago at a BNI, shout out to BNI once again, mixer, cross-group, cross-chapter mixer. And when I heard that he was a wine expert, well, he had me at wine. Please welcome to the studio, Thorsten Kuehler.
Thank you.
I kind of want my guests to feel like they're in a stadium arena with like 1 million people around us, and I'm talking it up about you. How did that feel? Was it good?
Totally fine.
Did I achieve that?
Yes, you did.
Oh, good. Can you see it with your mind's eye?
I sometimes have a lot of voices in my head anyway, so it's kind of...
Oh, perfect. Welcome to the club. You're in the right place. You had me at wine. You are so interesting to me. When I met you, we were in this room. There was a lot of chaos and a lot of energies, a lot of big personalities in there, a lot of very gentle souls. It was a mixed, beautiful room. And you stood out. I mean, apart from the fact that you're probably taller than most people, you just have this grace and this presence about you. And then I got talking to you and you said you're all about wine. You're a sommelier. You've worked in hospitality for a long time, but you're actually a wine expert.
Yes. Look, I consider myself a wine coach, wine guide, if you want that, yeah.
And I saw that on your business card. It said wine coach.
Yes, TK Wine Coach, that's my business.
That's
TK
your business.
Conscious Wine Coach, actually.
Conscious Wine Coach. Yes. That is interesting to me. Tell me about that. How did you get there?
Look, obviously, you already mentioned it, coming from hospitality. If you pick it by my accent, I'm not from New Zealand, I'm German, yeah. And being trained in a 5-star hotel with a 2 Michelin-star restaurant, and subsequently worked in a lot of jobs around Europe and ended up in New Zealand. And,
why New Zealand? What brought you to New Zealand?
The plane. But
served.
Look, like many other... travelers in the age of early 20s. I wanted to travel the world in a year and start with New Zealand, and I flew down with a backpack to Wellington. I got to Nelson and fell in love with the country and the lifestyle and the beautiful sun down there and the beaches and the mountains not far. And so anything very exotic to where I'm coming from, apart from the sea. I'm coming from a little island in the North Sea, from the north of Germany. But it was just utterly beautiful, and the people were so open and accepting and very welcoming, and we discovered that we have some common friends, or even family. Right?
That's right. And landing in Nelson, it is a beautiful part of New Zealand, and you're right amongst wine country as well, with Marlborough being one of the biggest wine regions. Yeah. And you also know my niece. Shout out to you, beautiful Flower. I love you. You're amazing. We both love you, by the way, Flower. If you're watching, listening. How was that different to the land you've come from? And I say land like it sounds like a fairy tale, but what was the contrast like for you?
Oh, look, I mean, And I think that the general catch about the New Zealand culture, or the feeling of people here, is you work for living, right? You're not living for work, and that's where I'm coming from. That's maybe not so much the next current generation, the millenniums, not anymore as much, I guess. But that's the way I've been brought up by my parents, who basically the end of war, post-war generation had to rebuild Germany. It was completely flattened by the Allies with the bomb air raids, and look, for good reason, obviously. Yeah. And in a way, we should be all glad that it happened that way, but. They were really, they were working horses, right? They got up in the morning, and up until they went to bed, they couldn't sit still, right? And a little bit that has been always the mentality. And, again, coming from this 5-star hospitality or Michelin-star hospitality, you are expected to work over hours. And if you're lucky, you get a thank you. If I worked only 80% of what I did in Germany, I actually got praised for it, right? And I got so much more appreciation for it. Down here in New Zealand, that I thought, well, there's definitely a different way of living as well. And actually, I don't mind to work hard. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm self-employed now. I probably work more harder than I ever did. But I decide when I work, and I work the way that I also take time out and I take time to appreciate what I'm put in as energy and work before. And, you know, I have 2 children now myself, which I want to spend time with. I don't want to go out to a job, work 8 to 12 or even 18 hours, which I did when I was young in hospitality. Come home, sleep for 6 hours and do it all over again. I know. You know? So
it's the same thing with entertainment. It's what I did as well. Yeah. Singing in bars and things like that. And it's exhausting. I mean, yeah, it's kind of rock and roll, but it's exhausting.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's fun. If you're young and, you know, you build a lot of kind of connections and a lot of network. And I was a restaurant manager in Nelson for the first 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And then, you know, I went back to Germany on a holiday, stayed for about 6 months, came back here to not lose my residency and started living in New Plymouth, of all places.
Oh, wow.
Did a little stint on the oil rigs. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Got drawn into that by a chef I was working for and with previously. And joined the catering crew and later on the drill crew people. And it was great money. But again, it wasn't really my lifestyle. You know, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off was good for a while. But to start a family, I've seen too many other divorced kind of colleagues on the rig. And no, it wasn't really my passion. My passion was always been being a host, creating experiences for people. And I guess that's how I got into hospitality. And that's actually a good thing that I got from my parents. They were always hosting social dinners, little parties, getting their community, their network around and having, just celebrational evenings. And I've been involved very early on to this and exposed to that. And and that's why I loved hospitality so much and actually started doing a career in there to create a moment for people that are away from home. And you think of a hotel that feels like a family, or even out for dinner, either by themselves, with friends, with family, and just creating these moments of memories, that they can take with them, ideally shared. And now finishing to your initial question, I think that's also the reason why I always saw that in wine was a combining glue for people. You know, some people eat this, some people eat that, but if they drink the same wine together, then they have a shared experience on
Absolutely.
that. Yeah. And for me, wine is the most emotional agriculture I can think of, product I can think of. Yeah, it creates memories, it triggers memories. It has this connection to people. It makes me feel better, apart from the alcohol, of course. You know,
which we can't say.
But it's that, you know, if I smell into a glass of wine, I just had that recently, and I opened a bottle of Rosso di Montepulciano, which is
lovely,
or Rosso di Montalcino, I think. Yeah, and that Italian red wine, for the people who don't know that, from Tuscany. And I was right back there to the moment when I were in Tuscany first time in the little village of Montalcino and tried this wine before. I was only 18 years old. It was a class expedition.
Wow!
And
what sort of school did you go to? I want to go to that school.
Yeah. So and that's, I think that's something that we just not cherish enough in life, and
the value of experience,
the value of shared experience, but also the value of taking a moment and really having this inner conversation with ourselves and remembering things from our past that give us a very comforting, good feeling, right?
Yeah.
And wine can do that. And that's why I specialized into wine. Of course, you know, I love wine and I love going to wine regions, and it doesn't matter from what part of the world you come from. You always, if you enjoy a good glass of wine, you always have a story to tell and to share again. Yeah.
Oh, God, that's a mic drop moment. If you've got a good glass of wine, you've always got a story to tell. And I want to come back to that, because you talked about that moment where you opened a bottle and you smelt the cork and you went back there. In that moment in time, when you're having, as a wine expert, because that's something I don't know and I don't understand, when you have that, is it almost like the wine is speaking to you or telling you a story? Is that what that experience is like for you?
I guess in a way, yes, but you don't have to be an expert. You have to be an expert in just taking a piece, like a quiet moment for yourself, and actually be able to remember things from your past. And if you can trigger that with the little molecules that come out of a glass, right?
Yeah.
The better is, of course.
Yeah.
But I have that, obviously, people say, oh, you must have a great nose. I said, yeah, I got a big nose, yes. But, but it's not about your nose. It's about to be able to connect what you smell to a memory up here on your USB stick up there, right?
Got it. So like I remember what the perfume my grandmother used to wear as an example, or like for me, because I've been a musician, there are particular songs in my life that connect to different ways that I've shown up, or different parts of my personality and identity as it evolved.
Yes.
That's kind of a similar sort of experience,
it's exactly
right?
that, yes, yeah. Because ultimately, look, if we're talking about flavors, lemon, apple, cinnamon, whatever you can smell in a wine or tobacco, yeah, it's none of these flavors have been ever added into the fermentation tank or into the barrel. It's just little ester molecules that build a very similar structure to that original flavor. And once that hits the nostrils, the information getting sent to the brain, and the brain is lazy, it just tries to find the easiest kind of way to connect. Yeah. And then, you smell a lemon or you smell a lime. And obviously the more training you have, like me as a sommelier or oops, sorry.
That's okay. We're okay.
We're live.
Yeah, we're live. It's all right. Keep going.
We can actually talk about
So
that.
if you're just listening to this on Spotify and you're not actually watching, that was a glass being knocked over, which is a sign we're probably going to open a bottle of wine soon. Yeehaw. Keep talking.
And it's just the memory that you have up there of, I always say to my guests, my audience, whatever you want to call them, clients, look, if you can't define what it is, just close your eyes. First think of a color, but then also just relax and maybe think of a moment in your life. And I had this lady who actually followed that, and she's like, oh yeah, now here's the glass again.
Yeah.
Now you say that. When I was young, I was riding a horse. I was riding horses, and it actually, that red wine really reminds me to when I came back from a riding expedition, and I put the horse in the stable and I brushed it down, and I walked back through the courtyard, and this mixture of odors of course, a horse, sweat, leather, actually a summer afternoon, the flowers around. And the more she was explaining it and telling me her memory, the more she lit up and actually really smiled and she was so concentrated all the way through the tasting, like not saying the wrong thing, and she was quite intimidated. She wasn't that old; she was just like late 20s, early 30s maybe. But she was talking about a memory when she was 16 or 18. Yeah, and I said, "Well, you got it." And this is what I want. I want to demystify the whole wine kind of, bullshit, yes, we can talk technical stuff, and it's very interesting for me nerds and for my industry peers, because we have a relation to that. But ultimately no disrespect for the consumer, it's just a vocabulary. Like you would start talking Tireo to me and I wouldn't understand. I would understand the feeling maybe, but in technical data, there's no feeling either. So why would I talk about it? And that's why I call myself TK Wine Coach rather than TK Wine Taster, or, tasting provider, whatever you want to call it, or teacher. I'm not a teacher. I'm not here to teach people. I'm here to educate people a little bit and bring them back to connect them with themselves. Because for me, learning about wine has a lot to do with learning about yourself, ultimately, right?
This is so good. And this is why I love these chats. And when you arrived here at the studio today, the first thing I said to you, having chatted with you a little bit, is that you are a kind of a fusion of like a sommelier and I hope I'm saying that right, and with a life coach, because we were talking about the power of presence and stopping and having a moment, and I just think that's incredibly powerful, especially in our hyper-driven lives that we live in this busy world. And you were even saying to me, these days things have changed so much. Before we started, and people are more concerned about losing their cell phone than losing their child in the supermarket. Just everything has changed so much, and the importance of stopping and making time and having a shared experience. We can learn so much about each other about ourselves.
Yes.
And in Te Ao Māori, that's principles like whanaungatanga, where we create that family concept around that. Or even when you're talking about the memories, stepping back into our whakapapa and understanding who we are, who we come from, who comes with us every time we show up, I think is so important. They're the same principles. We're just approaching it from different eyes, from different worlds. Yeah. So you've just had a sniff of that cork. What do you learn? What do you know?
Look, it's also one of the things that are very important for me when I do these tasting experiences, I call them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Initially, I said I do wine experiences, and people thought I'm a tour guide.
Oh wow!
But so that's why I'm now saying tasting experiences. Yeah. So I go to people's homes and offices and do my little wine explorations, if you want. Wonderful. That. Yeah. And it can be small or larger groups. I'm doing really much anything on the brief of the client.
Yes.
So groups from between 8 to up to 20 or 30. Yeah. Is ideal, but ideal number is about 10. Yeah.
Yes.
Because I love the intimacy.
Yeah.
And people actually, if the group is bigger, after second or third class becomes more a social event, and they start chatting away.
Yes, I understand that.
So look, and for me, it's utterly important to help you enjoying wine more, and through enjoying wine more, I think you enjoy life more. Yeah, you have these moments that you just described, or that we talked about earlier. Yeah. Just having a moment of presence and actually take your time. Not just. I did say the other day. It's. Do you remember a sitcom series called Cougar Town?
I know of it, but I haven't seen it.
So basically it was like a whole bunch of middle-aged women, all in their own little crisis, and they come home and they fill the glass up to here. And they just
scull it.
Right?
No, that's not what you do, right?
That's not necessarily what I do, no. It's for me, actually, it starts with knowing what you pick as a weapon of choice, right?
And it's quite hard, to be honest, as a consumer.
Super hard. It's super hard.
I don't know what I'm looking for, other than I've drunk it somewhere before and it was great.
Yes. So understanding how to read a label, yeah? And if you can't read the label in a way of not understanding it, understand how to ask the right questions to the person who's selling it, right? So first thing I always say, don't go to a supermarket to buy new interesting wines for you. Go to a specialized retail shop, right? Or if you're out dining in a restaurant and you like something, make a picture. Maybe ask the service staff, who's distributing it? Where can I get that from? Yeah. Right? They're happy to help or put you in touch with these people.
Oh, wow.
Ultimately, nowadays, you can just follow me on Instagram.
Shout out.
And send me a text.
We'll share all the links as well.
But therefore, for me, it's also simple, easy life hacks around wine. So that's why I brought a sparkling. Sparkling is always
a huge fan of a sparkling.
I know, you told me that at the beginning.
Right. And now it says it's a brut Pinot. So this is Rock Ferry. Shout out to Rock Ferry. Not that they're getting any advertising here, but you said it's Marlborough. That's where all my whānau are from. So I'm happy to support the Marlborough wine region because they do amazing things.
Yes. Yeah, they do. I mean, look, they are the pioneers of New Zealand winemaking and really put New Zealand on a world map of wine. The first ever wine that I drank from New Zealand was still in Hamburg in one of the hotels I worked in. And it was Cloudy Bay Sauvignon Blanc, of course. Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah. So big chapeau and kudos to the region and what they established. They became a little bit a victim of themselves and grown too big, I'd say. And obviously there's more Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc available in the world than Marlborough actually can produce, which is quite interesting.
Don't know how that happens. Yeah.
Well, they source grapes from other regions and blend it in. But
does that diminish the authenticity of the wine?
It does a little bit to a point. Hence, there is a movement. It's called Appellation Marlborough wine. Yeah, AMW. Mm-hmm. So they even have their own logo that they put on the back now to really make sure it's only Marlborough grapes in there. It's only Sauvignon Blanc in there when it's declared Sauvignon Blanc. And so they work on that. It's a little bit like the appellation system they have in France, right? With what shows on the label has to be in a bottle, right? And but look. Let's look at this. This is a organic producer, 100% certified organic. So why do I know it's organic? Yes, they could say that, but they actually also have the BioGrow certification on the back.
Oh, yep,
label.
I can see that. Yep, I'm going to turn that around so the camera can see the BioGrow as well.
So
perfect. So if you're watching on Spotify or YouTube, you'll be able to see that. That's what you need to look out for. Perfect.
So, and well, obviously, I know the wine.
And you know the winemaker as well?
Also, I know the winemaker. It's Alan McWilliams. Yeah, really, really nice, very gentle, very soft-spoken guy. And Tom Hutchison. Sorry, Tom Hutchison is the owner and involved actually in the operation as well. So really, really nice guys. I came across them and used to sell their wines for years when I was working for Great Little Vineyards in Oreki Bay Village.
Yeah.
And so for me, Alan is one of the top sparkling winemakers in the country, together with Rudy from Quartz Reef and some others. Yeah.
I may have drunk a bottle or two of Quartz Reef in my time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And anyhow, so why I'm smelling on the cork? Well, look, it smells like a fresh cork, does it?
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Look, if it has a little bit of a moldy smell, then you've got to be careful with the wine. It actually applies to any corked wine, right? So that's my first hack. So always smell on the cork when you have a bottle with a cork in it or close with a cork. If it smells a little bit like your grandmother's closet, then be careful. Right?
I would want to drink that anyway.
So next thing, sparkling wine. A lot of people go like this.
Yeah.
And see what happens. It foams
really
up.
Foamy.
Really, really foamy, yeah. So you don't do that. You hold the glass in an angle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because you minimize the foam, that means you actually still have bubbles when you drink it.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah. And it just looks nicer as well.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
And also, I particularly don't like champagne flutes for good sparkling method like this one. Yeah?
Okay.
This is actually made champagne method, even though it doesn't say it on a bottle because they're not allowed to, because champagne doesn't allow that. But it's a champagne method, and in New Zealand we call it traditional method or method traditional.
Yeah.
And that means it's basically made like a champagne.
Yeah, so you can see the difference in the pour.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you only have these small little glasses, I mean, again, go and buy yourself some proper ones. But so these are ordinary white wine glasses, yeah. Well, they're from a quality producer called Schotzwiese, which is a German wine glass factory or glass factory. But this is for you. And
one of the perks of the job of having your own podcast, you get to drink on the job.
But again, it's also put it in a bigger glass than these little flutes, because you can't smell anything out of flutes. Yeah,
and of course, a lot of what we take in and experience is smell, right?
It's the smell, yes. And
oh yeah, that smells good.
So, what does it smell to you?
Okay.
And don't be shy of swirling. That's totally fine.
Okay. Which I know with other wines, I would do it with still not normally with a sparkling. I don't know why I did, but that's okay if we're allowed to. Apricots?
Yeah. I don't necessarily get apricots myself, but I get yellow stone fruit. Yes.
Yeah, stone fruit.
Like yellow plum. Or we call them Mirabelle in German. Mirabelle.
It sounds Italian almost. Pete, are you going to come out from behind the scenes and get a glass as well? And this is great because if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, you'll actually see Pete, who is the brains behind this podcast, coming into shot. This is your moment. Actually, Pete's in one of the podcasts as well. We had a moment and I said to Pete, you should come on the podcast one time. He said, I've got nothing to talk about. An hour and 15 minutes later, Pete wouldn't be quiet. It's just the hand. That's great. I already get a sense that I would eat this. I would have this with something like cheese.
Yeah.
Actually, do you know what I'm getting a hint of? Or is it Pete just popping in? Hi, Pete.
Cheers.
Just a little bit. Hi, Pete. Cheers. And I heard too, you should always look people in the eyes when you do a cheers. I heard it was because Pete said he'd watched the Housewives of Orange County, and have I got lipstick on my teeth?
No, you actually got something on the lip.
Oh, thank you. It's probably my lunch. Thank you, darling. But Pete was watching Housewives of Orange County, and apparently they cheers. And if you don't look somebody in the eyes, you get 7 years of bad sex, and nobody wants
I heard
that.
it before. Yeah,
that's,
there you go. Yeah. Or bad luck if you.
Yeah, bad or bad luck.
Yeah, something like that.
So I'm already smelling this, and I'm thinking it reminds me actually. even though it's nothing to do with Chardonnay, when I was in probably my 20s and I was entertaining a lot, I used to drink, Chardonnay was my choice. And so it makes me think of those days when I was the girl about town.
Right.
Even though I know there's no Chardonnay in there, right?
Yeah. Now this is 100% Pinot Blanc, or Pinot Bianco, or Weißburgunder. Yeah. So it's a sister grape to Pinot Gris, if you want that, right?
Oh, that's amazing.
Very light, very delicate. For me, it got lots of white flower flavors, like elderflowers.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes. So what I want to understand is there's none of those things in there.
Correct.
Is it just evoking those memories for us? Is that what it's doing?
Yeah, it's just these very similar ester molecule chains, in the wine itself, which comes through the fermentation process, right? And they hit the nostrils, and when it goes to the brain just remembers something similar,
And that's for our brains, because as a keynote speaker, I talk a lot about communication.
Yes.
And how our brains are looking for clarity and context. So really, that's what it's doing. Our brains are just creating these pictures, right?
Yes.
To make this familiar.
Yeah.
And in communication, we do that to try and understand if the person in front of us is a friend or a foe, if they're okay or if they're a threat. If we can compartmentalize people, then we know how we can connect with them.
See, and this is one of the things I'm talking about in my tasting experience. It's like, that defines whether you like a wine or you don't like a wine. If you have a bad memory with, let's say, what do you say, apricots? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you eaten too many when you were a child and you had these tummy aches afterwards, or you spent the next half day on the toilet.
Yeah.
And
I love it.
So that might be a bad memory, and that's why you probably can't stand wines that smell like it, unless you force yourself to get over this trauma, right? Consciously. Yeah. But a lot of people don't have this win. Oh no, it's a shit wine. I don't like that wine. Well, why don't you like that? Just
it's not that it's good or bad, but find a bigger vocabulary.
Yes. And that's what I try to help people.
And so that's where that consciousness around wine comes into play.
Yes. One of the points,
and intentionality around consuming.
And look, I mean, another thing is when I first got here, and actually still hear that all the time. Like here in New Zealand, we have a bad drinking culture. I don't think we have a bad drinking culture. I think we have a bad drinking education. Yeah. So I mean, not talking from a high horse, I think. I'm not sure if you say that here. It's a very German expression.
But you're not on your high horse. Yeah, I understand what you mean.
Coming from Germany, look, we've got a few hundred, if not 1,000 years more time to develop this culture that we have around alcohol. But here, we don't even give us a chance, or, that the legislation doesn't even give us a chance to, start a proper culture, because all that's been happening here. And I'm super frustrated about the liquor licensing law. I shouldn't say that too loud.
No, you can. This is your truth. This is your truth.
Instead of condemning everything and making alcohol the demon, I think it's the demon is how we perceive it and how we handle it.
Yes.
But it's purely out of a lack of education, because we never been exposed to something like this from, I'm not saying early age on, but as teenagers, as young adults, and really also we're not being taught how to appreciate and celebrate a moment of enjoying a good glass of wine, or even a good glass of beer, or even whatever it is, right?
Whiskey or anything like that. And I think about it in different cultures. I have lots of friends who are from different cultures, and particularly European ones. It is normal for the children to have a little bit of wine with dinner. And like with my Kiwi head on and my logic conscious brain, I'm like, wow, that's really weird. But in other cultures around the world, in France and in Italy, that is normal.
It's completely normal,
and because of that, well, I can't say because of that because I don't have the definitive data, but it is my understanding that because of that, the levels of alcoholism might be a little different. Again, I say might be different because I don't have the data, but I think because it's more of an accepted part of culture and society, it's not put on it's on a pedestal and you can't touch it until you're a certain age and it's the demon and don't have too much, which then creates this culture of, oh, it's really naughty to have, I'm going to consume as much as I can, which leads to binge culture and all that sort of thing.
And then restricting the access, even you're an adult, like after certain hours of the day or night, you can't purchase this anymore, It's, of course, I think it's just human nature. You start to hoard, right?
Of course.
And then, you overindulge. I mean, it's the same thing like if you deprive people of good food, it's like, I guess that's why we all get big bellies around Christmas time, right? And because we're so deprived of actually having this shared big feast, this big kai together, and then we overindulge. And yes, I believe alcohol is a very similar kind of concept in that matter. But if you starve people of that, they will consume even more in the chance they have.
So, question for you: did you grow up in an alcohol respectful environment? Did you grow up? Did your family encourage this culture, or is this something you've learnt through your professional career?
Oh, that's a good question. I can answer that now. It definitely was more encouraged through my career and through my own observation at home. Yes, we've been, as I said earlier, my parents been hosting people, but my father is an alcoholic, and not a heavy drinker, but he definitely drank more than it was good for him.
Okay.
Just purely on the fact that he kind of like had lots of childhood experience from the Second World War that he didn't want to,
And I find
he never learned to cope with that. So that was his coping mechanism,
of course.
Right? So,
and I find even that experience, because one of the things I wanted to ask you around your work ethic and your approach to work, and if that was influenced by the way you saw your parents come through the Second World War. Well, not that you saw them come through that, but the impact of how their work ethic, and you said they're working nonstop and they're just super busy all the time. And you take that influence on, you absorb that as a child, and that comes with their stories of their upbringing. And there's these intergenerational stories, which I do believe and have experienced firsthand, shape how we show up, shape why we do what we do. Do you think there's elements of that's come through you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, look, you say quite often you either go the same way like your parents or you go the complete opposite.
Yeah.
I don't believe it as much. I think you take certain things that align with you or don't align with you, which you don't follow through with, right?
Beautiful.
And I guess I was fortunate enough to in my early teens to my young adult life have another life mentor, which was my pastor or priest or whatever you call it, from a Protestant church. So I was part of a church youth. I come from a little island in North Sea, and it's when you're young, you're getting confirmed, and then admittedly initially it was for the money, because like when you get confirmed, everyone in the community sends you like 10 German marks. It was like would be like 10 New Zealand dollars right now.
Oh, wow.
10 or 20, depending how good they know your parents or your family. Look, and it's quite a neat story because, look, I made on that one day about 2,000 German marks.
Wow, it's a lot of money for a young person.
And there was a lot of money. And but again, my parents, they stepped in and they said, okay, you're allowed to buy one thing. So I bought myself a little camera that could, a little Minolta, waterproof actually. So I could take it to the beach and didn't worry about it. And the rest we put on a saving account, very traditional, very classic. So I was 14 years old, right? Wow. And that money was sitting there, and then, I started working, and I almost forgot about it. I knew it would be sitting there somewhere, but I never really needed it. And then I did plan the trip to New Zealand, and there was not a long story, but I tried to keep it short. So I was in a freelance employment with a big caterer. They did the Formula One Grand Prix worldwide.
Oh, wow.
So I was already booked on a plane to Suzuka, Japan. And I think 2 days before the flight, or 3 days before, they cut me off the list because they had, whatever reason, long story.
Yes.
So they cut me off the list. But I wanted to go to Suzuka to then only pay the flight from Suzuka or from Japan to New Zealand myself, right? So it was basically my whole travel plan fall apart. And I was a little bit in shock, as you can imagine, for a moment. And I was like, actually, hang on. Mom, don't I still have that savings account there? And she's like, oh, yeah. Here, just have a look. There should be something on there. Well, obviously, it was almost 10 years, right? So it kind of doubled within that time. So it was 2,000 euro. And so that bought me the plane. Bought me the plane ticket to New Zealand. Straight from Hamburg, right? And
all because you got baptized.
All because I got baptized, or confirmed. Yeah,
confirmed. Sorry.
So neat little side story. But I'm coming back to my life mentors. I was Volker Karl, my pastor, and I've been. And so he actually showed me what a man actually can be, should be. I don't know, but like he was my role model to actually opening up about your worries, your emotions, your feelings, how to communicate that, how to still be a man of business. You know, some people call him softy. I don't think he was. You know, he still could be very firm, but he wasn't. He definitely. And he was even a little bit older than my father, or similar age, I guess, like my father. So he would have, and he's born in Hamburg, like, you know, another city that was absolutely flattened at the end of the war.
Wow.
And so he would have had his own trauma, but he dealt with it, obviously, with a very Christianity way. And he never really told me about his stories, but I knew there would be some underlying things. But he just became such a very important person in my life to engaging with others and actually reaching out if you need help, right? And all these things and showing love and respect and affection, and that, as I said, I stayed, and actually even now he's gone somewhere else now. I'm still in touch with him. So for me, that was, so I always looked out for other people in my life that I could learn from, how to become a better version of myself ultimately, right? And I was fortunate enough to actually have a few people that I encountered that, you know, for certain parts of my life guided me in that way and actually were very helpful and very supportive, and including the Austrian chef owner of a restaurant in Nelson that I eventually, you know, ended up with, and he put me on a residency of New Zealand, and crazy enough, he not only employed me, but a few months before he employed a woman from or young lady from Hamburg as well, that I eventually knew from the hospitality apprenticeship, and but we haven't seen or spoken to each other in 2 years, and then I got to Nelson into that restaurant, and there she was, and this is now my wife.
No way!
Yeah.
Are you even kidding me?
No.
So divine timing. Now, this is so interesting to me. So often I get into these chats with people and we end up finding these beautiful moments like this. And you've mentioned about, you know, having a mentor who was a pastor, a priest, in a Christian faith.
Yes.
And what you're talking, some of the things that I've heard you say resonate with, I grew up in quite a woo-woo household of spirituality. And some of the things that you're saying or that you've intimated today, and even before we came on camera today, resonate with the spiritual upbringing that I had. Would you say then that the way that you operate in this world is more of a connected, spiritual, intuitive, kind of following the breadcrumbs kind of way? Are you one of those people who just opens up to whatever the universe will offer?
Yes. Yeah.
You're that?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
To the despair of my wonderful wife, who's very German, very structured, very planful, and that. I'm very much led by this, by my gut feeling and making decisions rather based on that, and not making too much plans. Of course, I do plans, and I try to implement structure. I mean, can't live without structure completely. I mean, it would be anarchy. But I'm very much like following what you described as breadcrumbs, and just see what's out there. I think, a good piece of curiosity in my own mind, and people sometimes ask me, man, this is like, even, look, the last few years, obviously I've been a little bit stagnative here in Auckland. We're 11 years in Auckland, and we have 2 children now and not only one. But for quite some time, I try to, like, you know, see and discover as much in life, in the world, that I possibly could. Doesn't mean that I travel that much, funny enough. As I said, I want to travel the world with, you know, in a year and start with New Zealand. I never got there very far, right? But I think it's, again, that thing, like some people say, okay, well, yeah, even though I like it here, but I have this plan, I need to go there next. Why? Right? So that was always the thing for me. It's like, well, if I like it here and I feel actually really drawn to this place or to this person or to this kind of network or to this group of people, and I don't have any made plans, I don't give a promise to someone to be there tomorrow, why would I need to leave? So, and I guess that's a little bit I never planned to, you know, I didn't plan to become a sommelier. I didn't plan to become a TK conscious wine coach. It just kind of happened along the way. After I became a sommelier, I went into wine distribution. I was still back in Hamburg, and I worked first and again, you know, I worked for my first distribution sales rep job was for a company importing overseas wines, including Hunters from Marlborough and Thorne Clark from Barossa, Australia.
Yeah.
And little distribution company called Witt & Co. in Bremen. Hello, Mr. Witt. I'm not sure if you watched it, but probably not. And then I got headhunted about a year later by a bigger company. Yeah. And then another 1.5 years later, we kind of, admittedly, my wife and I were both like, look, our daughter was just about a year old. My wife was supposed to go back to work after maternity leave. Again, in Germany, we have 14 months maternity leave.
Oh, wow.
Fully paid, or up to 80%. Obviously, it's capped at some point, but 80% of your wages. And you can even split it between the partners, right? So she did 12 months, I did 2. And at the end of that, she was like, I don't really want to go back to my corporate 9 to 5, you know, or 8 to 6, or rather it was, going back to what I said earlier with Germany, you know.
Yeah.
And she's like, why don't we go back to New Zealand? You know, you got your residency, you know, we'll just go along. And so that's 11 years ago.
And you're still here?
We're still here, yeah. And again, it was more out of a feeling from both of us, like this ultimate draw or urge to change something in our life. And we both, as I said, she lived in Nelson, I lived in Nelson. By the way, when we met again, we didn't necessarily go straight back together.
Of course,
but we established a friendship from then on, and had to run or bump into each other another 2 times until it actually hit us. But
that's just beautiful, though. I have to say, it's a beautiful story.
But yeah, and that's we're basically within 6 months. I think we made plans. We put everything in a container and finished everything up, and then we were on a plane to New Zealand. And she had a job interview. That's what she had. I didn't have anything. I was a homestay dad for the first year. Worked part-time in a restaurant, O'Connell Street Bistro, which unfortunately closed a few years ago now. But yeah, so that's basically it. And then started working in wine distribution again. For a couple of companies, and then we all had a little bit too much time on our hands a few years.
Oh, through COVID,
sitting at home thinking about our life. And
all I did was drink wine, to be fair. I think everybody was like that.
Yes, there was a daily kind of celebration.
1 o'clock. What's going to come over on the news? Well, this has been really insightful. I've got 2 questions that I want to ask you. One, let's talk business. What do you think is the greatest business lesson that you've learnt through this journey? That is the biggest life lesson that you've ever had? I know it sounds really intense. It's a big question.
The biggest lesson, I think, is actually 2. One is when it gets tough, and as an entrepreneur, things do get tough. And specifically in this current situation in the moment, or current atmosphere, environment, as everybody talks about, it's so stagnatic and even like going back, and it's really, really tough. Look, don't give up. Believe in yourself. If you get stuck in a certain moment, take yourself out. Take a deep breath. Do a walk if you can. If you like it, open actually a nice bottle of wine, and don't go for cheap and drink much. Go for good. Go for good and drink less, but really enjoy it. Celebrate the moment that you're actually still here. Because if I learned anything from my parents, and actually through my own short life adventure so far, I'm 46, life can be very short, and people just like this are gone, right? And if we're still here, there's a reason for it, right? So don't give up. Don't doubt yourself. Like, tomorrow is another day. And if it's really like, if that one moment doesn't make you feel better, then try to have a good night's sleep, right? Tomorrow is another day. On the more positive side.
I thought that was positive. It was beautiful, but keep going.
It's, for me, the business lesson. I think it's more related to my private life. I so much enjoy having time with my children, deciding when I can have time with my children. Well, and my wife sometimes too, yeah. But we're more married for 14 years with all ups and downs, and yes, everybody who's in a long-term relationship knows that it's not easy. Honeymoon doesn't stretch for 14 years or longer. You need to work on that, right? But we worked through everything so far, and I'm very positive about my relationship and my family. But the children, I wish my dad would have spent so much time with me that I do with my children. Probably I would have a better relationship with him. Don't get me wrong, I love him. He's my father. But it's more to the point where they sometimes, give me grief if I'm not spending, if I'm out one night, it's like, because they're so used to being home, and we always have family dinner together,
and they cherish that clearly.
They cherish it very, very clearly, and so to have the freedom to decide when to work and how to work, obviously there's a challenge with that, to sometimes actually call it quits and say for the day, call it stop, and then focus your attention somewhere else on your private life. So you need to constantly make conscious decisions on now is work time, now is family time, or now is bro time if you catch up with a mate, right? So, or now is wine time. But having this freedom to decide and actually being an integral part in your children's, or even in your friend's life, even if your extended family life, to, again, not only create these shareable moments, for yourself, that you can go back to whenever you need a good positive memory, but also creating that shareable and memorable memory in the other person that you actually share it with, right? Because once you're gone, there's no chance anymore to create that, right? All they have left then, apart from, whatever, a few bottles of wine that's been in your cellar or something, all that's left of you ultimately will be what they remember, right? So I find it extremely important, and that's probably one of the biggest benefits of being self-employed, to actually say, okay, as my barber, I went to the barber today, especially for you, Monique.
Looks great. I was thinking your hair's looking very good.
And he was like, day off today. It's like, no, not exactly. I'm self-employed, so
you never have a day off, but you clearly do.
Well, you take your time, you take your moments, I mean, after that, I was rushing to the office, get a few emails out, then I had a meeting with another BNI member, then rushing back to the office, rushing home, get a quick bite in and grab this little beautiful sparkling bottle for us, and then rushing here. It's actually quite nice to sit down and just talk for a little while, and get to know you better as well. Not only, obviously, I know my own stories, but
and now I know yours.
But it's it's again, really being consciously decisive on what you do and when you do it, and even if it comes from a little bit from the gut. Yeah, so that's probably my biggest lesson.
I love it.
But also, never give up. And look, if the business fails, and they do, that I don't consider it giving up. I consider it just close.
You gave it a damn good go.
Yeah, well, close the chapter and start a new one, right? But don't doubt your, whatever mission you put on yourself. Don't doubt your own beliefs or your own kind of strengths. Things can be super tough. I mean, even when I was still in employment and my wife started her business, sometimes we were virtually living from paycheck to paycheck, and I couldn't pay for a coffee. I couldn't pay for, I don't know how often my parking app got declined because the credit card wouldn't give even $1.15, right?
That's the entrepreneurial life, isn't it?
This is the entrepreneurial life. Now we're both in there, and actually, to be honest, we've never been happier,
Yeah. So what is the next evolution for TK Conscious Wine Coach? What's ahead?
Well, what's ahead? I think it's obviously establishing a business more. I still consider myself a startup, even though I'm 2 years in business.
Yeah.
First 8 months been actually more recovery from a little accident. I had concussion, so I fell over right in the beginning of my journey, on my entrepreneurial
I'm so sorry
journey.
to hear that.
Oh, that's all right. All I lost is a little bit of short eyesight, so I wear glasses now.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's all right. It's, I think it would have come anyway with 46 plus, so at least that's what the doctors told me.
Yeah.
And I've been very lucky. Look, I know other people who still struggle after 2 years of an accident like that, so it wasn't too bad after all. And I didn't lose my sense of smell, and I didn't lose my memory, and I didn't lose the love for life. So, it's all good. But obviously that delayed everything, and
so it's about
made it start harder. It's about growing, reaching bigger audiences. And someone said actually to me not long ago, you should start actually a YouTube channel. I was like, okay,
I think that's a great idea.
I might need your help with that.
Oh, yeah, sure, I can help you out. I know some people who can probably help you out.
Yeah.
If it means we have to taste a few wines at the same time, I'm sure Pete Ward and I wouldn't mind helping you out with that.
That's all right. I think that's a base topic of that anyway.
There you go.
But so that's growing the business, be more established,
more visual, people understanding what you do, that unique experience you bring, the value.
Continue to basically not only edutaining people, but also giving back to community. So already obviously people love to approach me for free wine tastings in favor of their charity. And in 99% of the time, I'm very happy to help there and do that. As I did for Mercy Hospice, Upside, and I just had a meeting with the Graham Dingle Foundation yesterday.
Oh, yeah, great.
And so, because again, I think that's me. I have received so much good in my life, and had so much help wherever I've been, and whether it was like hitchhiking through Europe, and didn't know where to sleep, and someone gave me a bed and something to eat and a shower, and or many other things. So giving is living is one of my lines.
Giving is living. That's good.
Or living is giving. However you want to spin that, right?
Yeah.
It's so giving back to good causes, or ultimately to the community.
Yeah.
That's a natural thing for me, and I want to continue that. And the more, obviously, the less I actually have to worry about feeding my own family, the more I'm actually able to give.
You
right?
can do.
Yep.
So I'm so there with you. So if people want to find out more about the workshops, the tastings, the work that you do, if they want to book you for events, how can they find you?
Yeah. So I do have a landing page. The website is not really established, but it's a landing page. It's tkwinecoach.com. Yeah. Best is actually follow me on Instagram, TKWineCoach, and send me a message there, and I'll get in touch.
I love it.
Or just an email, hello@tkwinecoach.com. So
I love it.
Yeah. But because the packages are, yes, I do have packages, but ultimately I see people and my clients as individuals, and everybody has different kind of expectations or needs or wishes, and therefore. Again,
and I kind of get that you want to create a unique experience every time.
I hate
right?
copy paste.
Yeah, there you go.
I hate copy paste. Even though I sell the same package to 2 people, it would never be the same rollout because I have different people in front of me and I'm very interactive.
It's the same. Look, it's the same as the work I do. Every time as a speaker, every time I'm in front of an audience, while I have the same show or the same speech that I have to deliver, every performance is completely different because every audience is completely different. And what we do as performers, as speakers, as educators, whatever term we want to give that to ourselves, is we create a co-presence with the people that we're speaking with.
Yes, yeah,
and
I agree.
Honouring that, I think, is where the magic happens. That's what my master's is all about, just telegraphing that, by the way. Look, I've loved today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was so good to hear your stories and see the world through your eyes, which is what this podcast is all about. And the whole premise of it is really, apart from sharing the stories, and sure, we hear about another great business that I know people will be interested in. I think it's so important to take a moment, as you've shared, and hear expertise or hear perspectives on the world or visions of the world that might be very different, or might give people that comfort of knowing, oh, it's not just me. I'm a little less alone in the world because someone else has a similar view to me, or someone else has a same value as me, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I believe we're all divinely fabulous.
Well, and we're all somehow connected, even though we're all individual and we're all just a result of a lot of different kind of factors, and variables. But ultimately, we're all connected.
Well, look what happened when you walked in the studio, and we're practically whānau.
Yeah,
I know.
Sure.
Hey, look, Thorsten, thank you so much for joining me in the studio today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you to you for listening, for watching. And look, I get told every time, I have to tell you, if you've liked this, if you're still listening at this time of the podcast, because I know we've been on for a little while, if you're still listening, if you're still watching, like, subscribe, share, and do that. Look, send this to a friend. If you've got a friend who thinks that they know a bit about wine, you actually need to hear from this guy. Send this to them. Enjoy it. And remember, if you want to find out more, there is information somewhere around this video or this audio track that will give you the links to how you can reach out and connect with Thorsten directly. But Thorsten, seriously, thank you so much. You're an absolute legend. Woo!
Thank you, Monique.
All of the people in the stadium are cheering your name, Thorsten, like that. And also a big thank you to behind the scenes,
thank you, Pete
Ward, who has done all our production today. Legend. And he even had his moment on camera today as well. So that's the end of today's podcast. Thank you so much. Remember, stay magnificent. Share your stories because stories matter. Ko Monique Bradley tōku ingoa, he kai kōrero ahau. I'm Monique Bradley. I'm a storyteller, and so are you. So share more stories. Ka kite anō, inohora.
Ka kite.
That was awesome.
Yeah, cool.
Smashed it.
Cool.
Beautiful.